I'm so glad that you came back. That means I haven't bored you to death yet, and I've added value. What I have not done is been your guru. That's not my purpose. That's why it's hashtag not your guru, because I don't have that in me to be that. And that's not, slighting myself in the slightest, pun intended. It's because nobody has that power to be your guru. It's whatever you go out and seek, whatever you self-develop on, whatever you fill your ears, brain, eyeballs with, is completely your responsibility, your ownership. And so you are your guru. I am not. However, I'm glad that you tuned in today, because that means that you see value in seeking out, and that your goals are to be similar or aligned with some of my guests. And today I have a friend of mine that has been a friend of mine for many, many, many years. We've done a lot of really cool things together, and just in this virtual living, have gotten even closer, which is ironic because we've been friends only in the virtual setting since we've met each other. But the last 2 years is the time where I think everyone is utilizing it a little bit more and taking to heart that humans matter way more than we probably appreciated, is the right word, 2 years ago. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce someone that even me personally want to know more about. So tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do current day, and then everyone knows my typical questions. We'll get started.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Shelley Smith, and I own Premier Rapport. Premier Rapport is a business consulting firm, everything that is workplace culture related in a nutshell, which is a huge umbrella. And so, no, I do not have a particular client base that I work with or a particular niche. I literally, anytime there's two people together, there's a culture. So I lean into the little, and I lean into the people who have the thousands in the organization. I've been doing this for about 13 years, specifically on my business. And then prior to that, I was in the typical corporate America in some really large companies. And so there's that.
Absolutely. I love what you said. There is no niche for what you do or specific industry per se or type of company, because at the end of the day, humans are humans. And in a business, it is made of lots of humans from different angles. You've got your client or customer, your external human, and you've got your internal humans. I think what a lot of companies do wrong, in my opinion, is they spend a lot of money, investment, and time in their external humans, right? To get the money, right?
Yep.
To get that dollar, and not enough time on their internal humans, which if they actually reverse that, they wouldn't have to chase their external humans so hard and try to sell them so hard, because their people just naturally would attract and sell and do so well and be happy and stay with them. And so I've got to ask, what are the two things that you think you bring to the table the best, or ask the most of you,
So I think everybody's unique. So I'm not, I want to remain modest when I say my uniqueness, because I am modest, but my uniqueness is the fact that unlike some other consultants, I remain highly applicable. I still get my hands dirty in every single way. So I'm not tossing it off to someone else. I'm living and breathing all of the drama that happens inside of the day-to-day world when I'm living it too. And so I've been there and done that. I always laugh and say, I got in a boat, I went out, there were a lot of storms, there were a lot of currents, but I'm happy to report I've made it back to the shore. And I'm more than happy to expand upon those experiences, and maybe you'll find something in there that helps you along the way. So I think that makes me different from a lot of coaches that are out there, a lot of consultants that are out there, is those two elements of been there, done it, lived, survived, tell the story, and I stay in it deliberately on the daily for that. And so with it, I think that's why commonly people come to me for how can you help our leaders? It's like they need communication. They don't know how to talk to people. It goes right to what you just said, in that this, unfortunately or fortunately, the last 2 years have taught companies that, yeah, we have a great, the great resignation. Are we in the middle of the great reflection, and we want to avoid the great regret? And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we are treating people as humans first. And so anything around the leadership development, communication, how do we influence, is typically why people come to me to begin with.
I 1000% agree. And it's so refreshing to hear it reaffirmed, because so many consultants out there are exactly what this podcast isn't, which is trying to be a guru. And what that means and how it comes out is they say, this is what you need to be doing, or this is what you're doing wrong, and then go do it. And what it sounds like you bring to the table, which I admire so much, because I know what that does to your internal business and scalability, is you do the work.
Yeah, which is the fun part, to be honest.
So.
I can't imagine having everything disseminated out, because then I lose touch with my clients, and then I lose touch with the very thing that I'm telling them that you need to stay in touch with, is your people. So yeah.
Well, in everything evolves. Environment, market changes people, and so what you're bringing to the table would evolve and change based off of that. And if you're not tuned in, if you're not doing some of the work, if you're not in there with them to grow, to change, to be better, then you would eventually just be selling old tidbits.
That's right.
That no longer are applicable or going to give the results that you say that you can obtain, right?
Absolutely, which is what unfortunately you see on the market these days. And when you Google, or people are too diversified, and they don't stick on one thing. And so then you become the expert of absolutely nothing, or the information hub of absolutely nothing.
1000%, 1000%. What would you say are the two things that people that come to you that could be potential clients or are your clients already should be asking you that are not? They're not asking.
That's always one of my favorite questions. It's they should be asking me how they could most easily, readily define and align their culture, and how do we get started in that? That is the root of all the leaks. And so if we don't start there, then you're grasping and you never get to where it is you really need to get to. So that is not typically the call that I get. Now it leads to that. It leads to that through the series of, here's some leaks, and the leak is caused from, and the filtration system's clogged because, and so we get there, but they don't come in with that typically, or they're in denial.
Yeah. Well, you get them there because that's actually the ultimate question that needs to be solved and answered. And so you kind of coach them to that, because honestly, I think they're not asking it because they don't know that's the leak or that's the problem. A lot of times what we do is we holler and bellyache about the symptom of something, right? My leg hurts, and it's really an internal thing, has nothing to do with the leg, right? But we go to the doctor and we say, my leg hurts. And then they ask a bunch of questions to determine what actually is causing the symptom that I'm saying is the problem, because it's not the problem, right? It's the symptom of the problem.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Analyze it first to figure it out before you prescribe. Everyone goes into prescriptive mode, which makes me bonkers without asking questions. Yes.
But that's what you bring to the table, right?
Yes.
Is being able to get them there. I love that. What would you say the number one thing that you teach to all your clients, to one, to a few, to what's the number one thing that you teach that not only are you the most passionate about, and maybe it's the same, maybe it's different, maybe you're the most passionate about that, but also you think is a game changer, like it actually has a visual, a tangible result that you can see after you teach it?
I think the typical thing that I would say, because I am obsessed about, I'm above and beyond passionate about workplace culture and the interaction of people. I truly am obsessed with it. And every lens and every walk that I take, I put that on and I have a reflection of that. But the core starts with us first. We have to self-reflect, that notion of when you point, you've got three fingers, coming back at you. The self-reflection moment of why do we do, what is it we think, say, do, feel, act? If we don't know why we're doing, then it's really hard to adjust. And I call it put yourself on the shelf in order to pivot to others' needs. And so that self-reflection piece is probably the hands down most reflective portion. And typically all of my training starts with the self-reflection, because once you understand yourself, then you ask the question, am I willing to adjust to what Tiffany needs now that I know what I know? So self-reflection, self-awareness.
Absolutely. That's interesting because I don't know many people that would know how to even teach that.
To even get at that. Well, I do have I do have a few certifications under my belt and tools that I love. One of them is predictive index. I lean into reliable, scientifically based tools like predictive index, emotional intelligence, all of the reading and the research that I've learned, that I've gone through, every philosophical notion that there is to man, that I apply it to life and have stories and wins around it. And so that's where I've fallen into, and I say fallen into because, man, girl, if I would have known this stuff back in my younger days, I would not have done some of the things that I did and that I said that crushed people that I'm mortified about now. But yes, so that's where I get it, and that's where I fell in love with it, and that's how I'm able to connect all those pieces. And again, I have to say that it's not one thing, it's multiple things that make us who we are. So that's another thing that makes me crazy when someone says, take just this assessment, or just read this book, or just do, no. We got to go back to our childhood because that gives us a foundation of our self-worth and how we go through this little thing called life. And then we start layering, everything else. And so that's the other thing through the self-awareness is pulling the entire dichotomy, inside of why do we not think we need to be vulnerable? What creates fear inside of this? Why do we have courage or not have courage? What's causing the resiliency or not, on top of that? And that's all self-awareness. It's all self-awareness.
1000%. Do you think in business, whether it be small business, big business, do you think that having healthier humans with more self-awareness changes the bottom line and the profit margins within small business or a big corporate company?
Yeah, 100%. And you can, there's a lot of Harvard Business Reviews that absolutely verify that as well, above and beyond the polling, but the people who do all the research confirm that. Absolutely true. It's the same as the statistical mystery of workplace culture and how to quantify that. I get that all the time. And how do you, I keep hearing it's important, but how do you quantify it? And then I give them list and list and list and list of all of this are the things that are causing leaks from your culture. That is the sucking sound of your bank account leaking because you think you're not quantifying it really. And, going back to the very foundation. So yes, answer is yes, 100%.
Yeah, I think what you can absolutely do day one is quantify what is not happening because people aren't happy and they're sick,
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing the million things they're told to do and the different ways they're told to do them, and their brain doesn't compute the way that it's being done or said, or there's conflicting information out there because the processes internally are a little skewed, especially as you grow. That happens, right? Humans, if the humans are confused, they're not actively and confidently pulling the trigger on things, moving the needle, because there's so much time from the brain to the movement of doing something in confusion or unhappiness or cloudiness, right?
Absolutely true. It's that clog in the filtration system that happens to us, and it physically makes us sick. Again, there's research around especially the last 2 years, the stress, the anxiety, and the cost to the employer, and let alone before you start to quantify what's happening inside of someone's household, because now that stress and that anxiety, they're losing their job. And when they're losing their job, now they're creating more stress. And now they have the weight of their family. And, how can they simply keep clothing on their back, food on the table, and a shelter above their head? So again, there's, unfortunately, I say, a lot of research around it that absolutely quantifies that. Literally, there's articles on "My job made me sick," literally titles, "My job made me sick." And it's true. It's true. Yeah.
1,000, believe it, 1,000. I was interested before I came on today. In particular, there's lots of smart business owners out there that either logically or with their heart or both understand the importance of their humans being happy and being self-aware and investing in them. Lots of them. But I was really kind of drawing a blank and interested. How do they know when to call Shelley? Like, how do they even know what to Google search or articulate what they need? Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. The common things, people are Googling turnover. Nowadays, thank God, people are actually Googling culture. And I'm one of the few actual culture people that I'm the only person who does workplace culture certification. And so for that, for the obvious, but the other things are the leaks that they're having. So they'll Google things around employee engagement, around turnover, around retention, succession planning, those hiring and selection, those type of things is how they will end up to me, which is why when they come to me, they're talking about, do you have something to help me hire and select? Do you help people with the interviewing side? Can you help me with leadership and development? And then it trickles into, but it goes back to your comment about they start with the symptom, and the symptom is the turnover. But that's what's causing the turnover. What's causing the turnover is the leader. The leader is living the culture that they're breathing. So let's come back into the mission, vision, the value. And so now we're going backwards to go, it is a culture thing. Oh, we are misaligned. How do we do that? How do we define that? How did you just do that? How did you do that in 5 minutes? Well, you have the word innovation in your vision statement. You talk about collaboration in your mission statement, and you talk about growing sales. But the values have nothing to do with any of those things. And when I just asked your team to underline the action words of your mission, your vision, and your values, there is no synchronization. Let alone before I go ask your team to put on a sticky note, write 3 to 5 words to describe your culture, and then take another sticky note and write down your personal values. We've got answers all day long that have zero alignment. That's how we get to it and do it so quickly. And they're like,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you even get down on this path? I mean, you've been here on this journey for 15 years, right?
Close to that. Yeah. Accident, yeah. Tiffany. It was an accident. I grew up in an entrepreneurial home when it wasn't called that. And it was a family-owned business. I started working when I was 11, doing this and doing that with my parents. They had an auction house and a restaurant. And so, I worked there and of course hated it at the time, but now I appreciate it. And then I ended up working for Marriott for years, was in the hotel industry, moved into a franchise and thought it was always about the brick and mortar. And I went down the brick and mortar road with a partner. And then I was sucked dry. I was fried. I hated it. And I had a conversation with a franchise broker, and the franchise broker came back and pitched me ultimately that it's not about the brick and mortar, it's about the people. Everything that you described and every way that you answered everything was about you developing people, you developing human beings, you creating succession planning, the power of multiplication in creating leaders. And I was like, oh my God, it is. And so that was the birth of my company. Originally, executive coaching, peer board review, meeting with leaders once a month in small groups. And then that led to that it's not that, it's actually the workplace culture environment and some fun things that I had done in my previous life as an executive in hotels. And so it was an accidental discovery, which I'm super happy. Now there were a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, but that's how I got here.
No, absolutely. There always is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There always is. I mean, maybe I'm a sick human, but I actually am more fond of those missteps in my journey than I am of the right steps. And I say that because I must be more fond of those missteps, because those are the ones that come to my mind when I look back at what I have accomplished, is all the missteps that led me to where I am today, and realizing that from them, I became more self-aware, which I think is a huge value teaching that you bring to the table, because you know, I wasn't joking, and also come from a similar educational point in what I do. And that's that self-awareness is not something that is rarely understood enough by an individual to then be able to teach how to develop your own self-awareness.
Yep. Yep.
It's a very, very rare, unique thing.
I agree. It's interesting that you said, I never thought about it until you were saying it. The fall downs and us getting up it is truly where the joy comes from, because you can backtrack. If it wasn't for that bruise, for that wrinkle, for that broken this or that, I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't have learned this, and I couldn't share. One of the most profound, simple books that I read, and I'm looking on my bookshelf right now, I want to try to get it right. It's called The Meaning of Life, and I can never say his name correctly, but he's the author. He was in a camp, and he talks about one of the concentration camps, and he talks about the journey through and his life. At the end of the book, the whole thing is about finding the meaning of life. Finding the meaning of life is realizing that it's not about you. You're not here on earth for you and your life, but your responsibility to share your life experiences with others. That is the meaning of life. And I'm not getting all of that correctly. And I hope that when people hear me say that, they totally get it. But I'm like reading this book fast and furious. I mean, he doesn't want the meaning of life, right? And I'm reading all of the details about the concentration camp. And then at the very end, you know, the meaning of life is your responsibility to share what you've learned with others. That's the gift. It's the gift. And I was like, oh, and that just goes to the core of what you just said. Sorry. I had a rabbit moment.
No, I love it because you just, in a tangible way, really put validation on, I think, what we're both saying, which is, you know, you're furiously reading this book trying to get the answer, right?
Yeah.
And the last page tells you the answer, that it was the other 999 pages you already read. That was the answer.
Yeah. In its simplicity of form. Yeah, we chase my daughter a few weeks ago said, why do they always call it this short life, or the one life you live? She's like, we only have one life. Like, why do people say that? Life is short. We don't know how long, you know. She's like, get busy living. I love that. And I was like, it's true. All of those things that as we get older, oh, she figured it out before I did. But yeah, we overcomplicate things as humans, period. Overcomplicate and think they're complex, but they're not complex. We overcomplicated them.
Oh, 1000%. All of our complications in our life were 100% created by ourselves.
Yes.
Even if you think they involve so-and-so, or it's this circumstance or that, no, we created it. We created it being a problem.
Yes.
In our lives, 100% on our own. And again, it really always rolls back to that one piece. Your lack of self-awareness makes you think that it has something to do with anybody else but you. To solve it, and your lack of self-awareness treats it as if it is a problem rather than part of the journey of figuring out how you can add more value to the humans outside of you
100%. Well
and what that
articulated.
value is, right?
Yeah. 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 Instead of taking on the value that others have, or we allow others to label us or to give our worth for. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I always say this, mainly because it just keeps me in suspense too. You know, a lot of times podcasts, they interview people and there's a lot of talk about all the right things they've done and what they have now and their accomplishments and their success. And I listen to those and I love them. They all have a purpose for me, or I wouldn't be listening to them because I purposefully seek out things that I listen to or read or watch. But not a lot of them really say, okay, that's true for you. You've reached so many accomplishments, so much success. And by the way, just staying in what you do for as long as you have, like staying in the game. I mean, I can Google right now consultants for any type of industry or generically, and I will pull up so many people that are no longer even in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they sold something that was not actually result driven or valuable or genuine, right?
Yeah.
So out of the game. So just staying in this space for as long as you have is an incredible notch, right? Like you probably will agree with me. I no longer sell myself. I just say I've been doing this for 13 plus years.
Yeah.
And nobody's left me.
Yeah.
And don't get on a call with me and let me tell you all the ways I'm amazing, because what else would I say, right? I'm going to give you some cell phone numbers. After you text or call them, then we'll hop on a call and onboard you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that because when people stumble around, are there any references? I'm like, okay, well, if you're stumbling around that, there's a problem. I'm going to.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all that said, there's continual growth. You didn't get to the years of doing what you've done and doing it so incredibly well by not, realizing that today you've got to grow and tomorrow you've got to grow and next month. So I always have my guests give me a 3-month update.
Okay.
And at the end of every podcast, we figure out, when I say we, you, because it's your life, out where do you go? Where is your self-development from here? Where do you grow from here? What's on your horizon? What goal are you going to accomplish in the next 3 months?
Well, aside from the revenue goals, which I have all kinds of games I play with myself, because I'm just crazy like that, from closes to whatever it is. So aside, I want to set that aside. It's not important. I recently read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's really good. It's simple, but it's about forming habits and how you change habits. And if you've not read it, y'all, you need to read it. But in that, the premise is around the 1%. What are you going to do 1% different? How are you going to give me the 1%? Somebody stuck in something 1%. So I literally in the process of, I just started the journaling of just my 1% book, trying to figure out what are those 1%. So I can't give you what I'm going to do in the next 3 months with the 1%, but I'm making a list. So if you're going to follow up with me, I would love for you to say, Shelley, where are you at from a 1% accumulation and how has that changed your life? It would be something like that. And I can tell you that some of those things, I'm not a person who lives in regret. I am a person who, leans into those life lessons like we were saying before, but there are things that moving forward that I want to consciously do differently. So for example, and I know this resonates with you, traveling a lot. I've always been the person I fly in and fly out. I book back to back. It's business, 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 business. No more. I'm going to live life. So wherever it is that I'm going, there's going to be bookends of living life. So part of my 1% is just take it in and quit stressing about, it used to be stressing about the money. Well, that's gone. That's gone. The money, there's always more money. So I just want to live. And I did already start that a little bit with bringing, when my kids or my family member or my friends can come with me, I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's go. You can do this while I'm doing, a speaking or whatever I'm doing. And then we're going to go do this before, and after. So the 1% is what I would want you to remind me on through all of that.
I will, because I have spent a lot of time here recently, but I would say ultimately in the last year, also really evolving to that, because it became my level of success. Like, that is my level of success now. It's no longer a monetary goal, although I have those, right? Because I'm also money motivated, right? And I have bills to pay. I mean, I'm a single mom over here, and a lifestyle that I want to keep up, right?
That's right.
So money matters. Like, don't get me twisted on that. It matters.
Exactly.
But it no longer is my gauge of success. My own personal feeling of accomplishing something no longer is tied to the dollars that I made that month or that year or that day or that call or whatever, what I'm going to make. It now is tied to, did I furiously read that book to get the answer? Or did I feel the page as I turn to the next one?
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Somebody asked me recently at a conference, how would you double your happiness? I haven't figured that out yet, but that's a damn good question.
Hey, you know what? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's that, 1% piece, but it goes to that. Yeah. So there we go.
All right. Well, I'm going to do it. It's going to be in the calendar. I'll get a little short video and you can tell me where you are on that. And guys, I'll tune you in as well. Don't worry. I'm not going to save it just for myself. I appreciate you so much. You're one of the most lovely humans that I have the privilege of being a part of your life and watching your journey, and just the education and teachings that you put off without that being the intention, because it truly is your truth. Teaching human nature and how to practically change it, use it, respect it, appreciate it, understand it, is beautiful, and it's needed.
Thank you.
So, you keep on rocking it. We need more of you in this world. If we had more of you in this world, or if I can multiply you, there would be a lot more happiness felt, and a lot less pain in the world, for sure.
Well, thank you very much. I'm humbled. Thank you.
So blessed to have you today. Love you pieces. You have a good day, my friend.
You too. Bye.